If you want to be successful as a content creator and thought leader, then you consistently need to create great content. But how do you do this? There are two pieces here. First, you have to consistently create content. And secondly, you actually have to consistently improve your skills for creating content. Either way, you need a project. Projects focus your attention on something specific you want to learn or achieve. While there are hundreds and thousands of project planning templates and examples on YouTube, very few of them are specifically for content creators. Plus, in my view, they use conservative and outdated project planning templates. In my previous video, I shared the best project planning template. And it's the best because I spent 3 years looking for it through my research and in writing 3 books. But surprisingly, it wasn't a traditional project plan. Instead, it came from game design. Yep, game design. In that video, I shared the 9 principles of the project planning template. If you haven't already seen it, you might want to go back and check that out to get the overview. Today I'll use that template with my current content creation project example. It's what I'm working on right now. There are 9 key questions you need to ask. To help create your project planning example, download the template that's got a link to it in the description down below. There's a blank file and one filled out with my example from this video. To create your project plan, pause the video at the end of each of the 9 project sections to answer the key questions. Ready? Let's dive in. Why are you playing your game? Your intention is the reason you're playing your game. Why are you creating content? For me, I'm publishing videos on YouTube because I want to build a bigger and better audience. And for this specific project, I want to improve the quality of my videos so I can engage my audience for longer. My long-term goal is to go from vlogger to movie maker. What specific and measurable result are you going to produce, and by when? While there are lots of ways to make better videos, and I've got a lot of improvement to make, I'm going to focus my project on using B-roll. If your A-roll is talking to the camera like this, then your B-roll is everything else, including the video snippets and the slides that are added. Earlier, I used this piece of B-roll to transition from the introduction to the project example. My intention here is to create a library of B-roll footage of me working, so that I can easily add these elements to future videos. My specific result is to create 100 pieces of B-roll in the next 4 weeks. How will you measure your progress? To measure your progress, you want to translate the bigger result that you want to produce into smaller, countable chunks. I've already set this up in the way that I've defined my overarching result. Create 100 pieces of B-roll. Every time I create a piece of B-roll, I can add it to my scoreboard. In contrast, if you're writing a book, you don't want to count how many books you've written because for most of your journey, you're going to be on 0. That's not going to give you a sense of progress and it's not going to help your motivation. Instead, you want to count the actions you take along the way and the results you cause along the way. So for writing a book, it might be you count how many words you've written and you may even count how many hours or minutes you've spent writing your book. What milestones or checkpoints for your progress will you make? One way to think about this is if you had a coach and he rang you up in the middle of your project and he asked you, how's it all going? How would you answer? If you don't have measures and milestones in play, you'd probably answer, good? Not very convincing, right? When you have milestones and measures in place in your project plan, you can be much more specific about where you're at in your game. My game is to create 100 pieces of B-roll in 4 weeks. That's 25 every week. If you rang me up, I could tell you exactly how many pieces of B-roll I've created and we could decide whether I'm on track with my expected results. How will you define the limits of your game? In most sports, there's a boundary line, which basically says if the ball lands on that side, it's in. But if the ball lands on that side, it's out. This helps you decide scoring in your game. And we want something similar for our projects. For instance, we want to know when the game starts and when the game ends. For instance, my game is intended to last for 4 weeks. If I reach my goal before then, I'll say the game is won. If I don't reach the goal when the time limit of 4 weeks is up, what do? Well, I can decide to keep going or not. You also want to decide what to include in your game. I'm counting B-roll video footage, but I'm not counting slides or photos. This will directly impact your measures and your scoring. What are the acceptable actions in your game plan? There are lots of great sources of B-roll footage online. I could just go online and download a whole bunch of them and probably have 100 of them within the next hour. That could work, but that's not the point of my game. My point of the game is for me to practice creating B-roll and having footage that is personal to me. And it can't just be any type of B-roll, it needs to show me working in some way. Plus, they don't have to be complete stories. They only have to be 10-second video snippets. What are the rules of your game? Well, in any project, there are always a lot of actions we could take. There are always some that are more important than others. What are the critical actions you need to take to win your project or game? For my game, I've identified 4 important sets of actions. My first is to write down a list of possible B-roll shots that I could take. This will save me time in the production. The second is the most important piece. It's to capture the video footage on my camera. And you might think I could stop there, but if I did, I wouldn't have anything very useful. To make sure I have 100 useful pieces of content here, I also need to review them. And as a 4th step, I also need to edit them or arrange them in such a way that I can find them and use them in the future. The critical action is the taking of the video footage. But if I don't do the other 3 actions, it could take me a long time to complete the game. Plus, another smart action is to do it in batches. Rather than setting up and packing up and setting up and packing up, if I just set up and took 10 or 20 shots at a time, then I can get through the game much faster as well. And the key to batching is I'm going to have to schedule 1-hour blocks of time to make this work. These all become actions I can list in my project plan. What other actions do you need to take to win your project or game? You might think of this as the type of preparation you need to take before your main action. And there also might be things you need to do to recover afterwards. For me, to work out what B-roll I could capture, I could do some research from other people's videos on YouTube. This is important preparation, but I also need to make sure I don't waste too much time here. Plus, I also need some sort of quality standard to assess whether the footage is going to be useful later. And finally, what is a name for your project that will inspire you? I think the best way to answer this is to go back to the intention you created at the start of the game, because that gives you the motivation, the reason why you're playing this game. For me, I want to go from vlogger to movie maker. So I'm going to call my game Movie Man to remind myself of this. That's it. That's my project planning example for content creation. And make sure you download the project planning template in the description below so you can create your own project. The booby prize here would be to watch this video but take no action. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!